Do you know that moment when you promised yourself you wouldn't explode? That this time would be different? That you would stay calm no matter what happened? And then, 5 minutes later, there you were yelling, saying things you didn't mean, making impulsive decisions that cost you dearly, feeling that toxic mix of anger and regret rising in your chest? If you've ever been through this, welcome to the club of imperfect human beings. The difference is that some have learned a secret kept for over 2,000 years, a technique so powerful that it has transformed slaves into philosophers and warriors into sages. And the most fascinating thing? This technique doesn't require money, special talent, or luck. It only requires one decision: to become master of your own mind. The inconvenient truth is this: you're losing battles you didn't even need to be fighting. Every time you explode under pressure, every time anxiety paralyzes you, every time you act impulsively and regret it later, you're handing control of your life over to external forces that don't deserve that power. And you know what's worse? You've probably already tried dozens of self-help techniques, read motivational books, watched inspiring videos, and yet you remain a prisoner of your own emotions. Why? Because no one taught you the true foundation of mental control. No one showed you that mastering your mind isn't about suppressing emotions or pretending everything is okay. It's something much deeper, more practical, more revolutionary. What you are about to discover is not abstract philosophical theory or empty promises of instant transformation. It is a system tested by Roman emperors on battlefields, by ancient thinkers amidst political chaos, by ordinary people who decided to stop being victims of their own reactions. When you master this Stoic technique, something extraordinary happens. You stop fearing pressure. You stop being a slave to anxiety. You stop losing control in the most important moments. And you begin to live with a serenity that the people around you cannot explain, because they simply do not know the secret you are about to learn. Let's make one thing clear from the start. Stoicism isn't that dusty philosophy you studied in school and forgot the next day. It's a mental technology developed over 2,000 years ago by people who faced pressures that would make any of us crumble. We're talking about Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire while dealing with wars, plagues, and betrayals. About Epictetus, who was born a slave and became one of history's greatest masters of wisdom. About Seneca, who navigated the treacherous waters of Roman politics where one mistake could cost a life. These men didn't have the luxury of emotional collapse, so they developed a practical system, tested under real fire, to transform pressure into power. And the best news? This system works just as well today as it did back then. The great illusion that insecurity plants in your mind is this: if I can control everything around me, I will finally have peace. So you try to control people, circumstances, the future, and end up exhausted, frustrated, because you discover that the world simply doesn't bend to your will. Stoicism turns this game upside down. Instead of trying to control the uncontrollable, you learn to master the only thing that is genuinely under your control: your mind, your reactions, your interpretations. When you understand that you can't control the storm, but you can control how you navigate it, everything changes. Calm ceases to be something that depends on perfect external conditions and becomes an internal decision you make, regardless of the chaos around you. Think of it like training for a marathon. You don't expect to wake up one day and effortlessly run 42 kilometers. You train, build endurance, strengthen muscles, and teach your body not to give up when the pain intensifies. The same is true for the mind. Stoic mental discipline is exactly that: systematic training so that your mind doesn't crumble when emotions attack. You practice daily the art of pausing before reacting, of questioning your own automatic thoughts, of choosing conscious responses instead of impulsive reactions. Over time, this becomes second nature. And when the real pressure arrives, you won't need to struggle to maintain control because you've already built such deep internal roots that no storm can uproot them. But this mental control begins in a place that most people completely ignore. Here's something that might sound strange at first. Before you mentally lose control, your body is already screaming that something is wrong. Tense shoulders rising to your ears, short and rapid breathing, clenched jaw, downcast gaze avoiding confrontation. These are signals your body sends saying, "I'm surrendering, I'm in survival mode, I'm losing the battle." And here's the trick the Stoics discovered. The communication between body and mind works both ways. If an agitated mind agitates the body, a controlled body can calm the mind. When you consciously adjust your posture, when you deliberately slow your breathing, when you choose calm and controlled movements, you are literally reprogramming your internal state. It's not mysticism, it's neuroscience applied for millennia. Try this right now. Sit upright, open your chest, lift your chin, relax your shoulders, and breathe deeply through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold for 2. Exhale through your mouth for 6. Do this 3 times. Did you notice the change? Your body has just sent a clear message to your brain. We are in control. There is no real threat. We can think clearly. This is the physical discipline the Stoics practiced. They knew that it's no use having refined philosophy in your head if your body is transmitting panic to the nervous system. So they cared for their posture as if it were a declaration of intent. Every time you physically put yourself in a position of power, even when you don't feel powerful, you are training your mind to believe that you can face whatever comes. The practical part of this is simple, but it requires consistency. Start every morning with 2 minutes of mindful posture. Standing with feet shoulder-width apart, spine straight, chest open, arms relaxed at your sides. Breathe slowly and intentionally. While doing this, visualize the day ahead not as a series of threats, but as opportunities to apply your inner control. Throughout the day, whenever you feel the pressure rising, return to your body. Ask yourself, how am I positioning myself physically right now? If you are hunched over, shrunken, tense, correct it immediately. Not because this will make the problems disappear, but because it will ensure that you face them with the posture of someone who doesn't give up easily. The body is the first line of defense against insecurity. When you train it to remain firm, the mind follows suit. But physical posture alone is not enough if you continue to react to everything as an automatic reflex. The difference between people who always seem in control and those who live on an emotional roller coaster isn't what happens to them, but how they respond to what happens. Reacting is automatic, instantaneous, governed by the primitive part of the brain that only knows fight or flight. Acting decisively is deliberate, conscious, governed by the evolved part that can think strategically. When you react, you are at the mercy of what hit you. When you act, you are in command of the situation. And here's the crucial point. Between the moment something hits you and the moment you respond, there is a tiny but powerful space. In that space lies your freedom. It is there that you can choose whether you will be swept away by emotion or whether you will respond with wisdom. Let's be practical. Someone unfairly criticizes you at work. The immediate impulse is to counterattack, defend yourself, prove them wrong. That's reactivity talking. But if you create just 3 seconds of pause, if you take a breath before responding, you open up space for better questions. Is there any basis to this criticism that I should consider? Will responding now improve or worsen the situation? What do I want to build with my response? These 3 simple questions transform reaction into action. Suddenly, instead of engaging in an ego battle that leads nowhere, you can choose to respond calmly, thank them for the feedback, ask for specific examples, and demonstrate maturity that completely disarms the initial aggression. This is not weakness, it's absolute control over your own responses. Training to develop this ability begins with small situations. The next time someone cuts you off in traffic, resist the urge to honk angrily and curse. Breathe, acknowledge the anger rising, and let it pass without acting on it. When someone disagrees with you in a casual conversation, instead of immediately defending your point, pause and ask, why do you think that way? Every time you choose to pause instead of reacting, you strengthen the mental muscle of conscious decision-making. Over time, this pause becomes natural even in the most intense situations. You develop the ability to feel the emotion without being governed by it, to recognize the impulse without obeying it. And when you master this, you discover that external pressure only has power over you if you allow it. But there is another essential ingredient in this equation: the ability to transform what hurts you into something that strengthens you. Here's a painful truth, but it sets you free. You don't grow during easy times. You grow when everything is falling apart, when the pressure is unbearable, when it seems like you can't take it anymore. It's precisely there, at rock bottom, that you have the opportunity to discover what you're really made of. The problem is that most people spend all their energy asking, "Why is this happening to me?" when they should be asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" Marcus Aurelius had a killer phrase about this. The obstacle in the way becomes the way. It's not a pretty metaphor, it's literal instruction. That difficulty you're facing isn't a detour from your growth, it's the very mechanism of growth. If it didn't hurt, it wouldn't be transforming you. Think about any valuable skill you have today. Chances are you developed it because you were forced to buy some hardship. Lost your job and had to learn a new profession? That gave you versatility. Went through a destructive relationship? That taught you to recognize red flags and set boundaries. Faced a financial crisis? That made you more disciplined with money. Pain that doesn't transform into wisdom becomes just repeating the same mistake. But when you consciously extract the lesson from each difficulty, when you make the effort to ask, "Okay, what is this difficult moment teaching me about myself, about others, about life?" you transform poison into medicine. You take what should break you and use it as building material for something stronger. The practical application of this requires an exercise that seems simple, but is profoundly transformative. At the end of each week, take a notebook and write down 3 difficulties you faced. It doesn't have to be anything grand. It could be a conflict at work, a higher bill, a difficult conversation. For each difficulty, write down a specific lesson you can learn from it. I learned that I need to communicate my expectations more clearly. I discovered that I have more resilience than I thought. I understood that certain people drain my energy and I need to set boundaries. When you do this consistently, your mind begins to see difficulties not as threats, but as raw material for development. The insecurity that previously paralyzed you in the face of challenges is gradually replaced by an active curiosity. What will I learn this time? But this transformation is only sustainable if you develop a secret weapon that most people completely underestimate. Let's talk about one of the biggest lies you probably believe. That calmness is a passive state, an absence of action, a sophisticated way of remaining silent while the world burns. Nothing could be further from the truth. True calmness is an active, sharp, lethal weapon when used correctly. It's the difference between being a boat adrift, carried by the waves, and being the captain who keeps a firm helm even in the storm. When you cultivate real calmness, you're not running away from battles, you're choosing to fight them with a strategic advantage. Because while everyone around you is losing their minds, reacting emotionally, making rash decisions, you maintain the mental clarity that allows you to see opportunities where others only see chaos. This isn't luck, it's applied mental discipline. What most people don't understand is that calmness needs to be trained like any other skill. You don't wake up one day miraculously serene. You build this ability through deliberate practice, day after day, especially in the least dramatic moments. It's like training in peacetime to be ready for war. Start by observing when you lose your composure in trivial situations. Someone takes too long in the checkout line, your computer crashes, coffee spills on your shirt. These are your training grounds. Every time you choose to breathe and maintain composure in a small situation, you are strengthening the mental muscle that will save you in big situations. The Stoics called this negative rehearsal, preparing the mind for adversity through controlled exposure to minor irritations. Here's a powerful exercise that will accelerate your development. Choose a recurring situation that usually gets on your nerves. Could be traffic, family arguments, work pressure, anything. Before entering that situation, dedicate 2 minutes to visualizing it happening. Imagine the worst possible scenario unfolding. Now visualize yourself responding with absolute calm. See yourself breathing slowly, speaking with a controlled voice, making conscious choices instead of automatic reactions. Specifically visualize how your body will position itself, what words you will use, what tone of voice you will employ. When the real situation happens, your mind will already have an alternative script ready, an option beyond the usual reactivity. With repetition, this script becomes your default response. And suddenly you discover that calmness is not something you need to seek. It's something you simply have, because you trained for it. But calmness alone is not enough if you are caught off guard by crises you didn't anticipate. Most people live in a state of naive optimism, believing that things will continue as they are indefinitely. Then, when life inevitably changes, when crisis arrives unannounced, they panic because they lack the mental structure to process the shock. The Stoics did the exact opposite. They practiced something they called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Before you turn up your nose thinking this is morbid pessimism, understand. It's not about living in constant fear of the worst, but about training your mind not to be destroyed if the worst happens. It's like a pilot practicing emergency landings in a simulator. He doesn't expect the plane to crash, but if it does, he knows exactly what to do because he has mentally rehearsed it 1,000 times. Think of it as emotional insurance. Do you have car insurance in case of an accident? Do you have health insurance in case you get sick? Of course not. But you prepare because you know that unforeseen events happen. Mental preparation works the same way. Dedicate 5 minutes a week to this simple but transformative exercise. Choose 3 important areas of your life: work, relationships, health. For each one, ask yourself, what is the worst realistic scenario that could happen? Losing your job, a breakup, a health problem. Now, instead of panicking at these thoughts, ask yourself, if this happens, how will I cope? What resources do I have? What actions can I take? How will I keep functioning emotionally? By doing this, you are literally creating mental navigation maps for future crises. The power of this practice is that it makes you anti-fragile, a brilliant concept that means not only resisting shocks but becoming stronger because of them. When you've mentally visualized facing difficulties, when you've mapped out your possible responses, the real crisis loses some of its paralyzing power. You're not happy with the situation, but you don't collapse either because deep down in your mind, you've been there before. You've rehearsed. You've planned. The insecurity that should paralyze you encounters a prepared mental structure that responds, okay, this is bad, but I know what to do. And this confidence doesn't come from arrogance or denial of reality. It comes from intentional preparation. You've transformed the paralyzing anxiety of what if into concrete plans of when this happens, I will do X. But even with all this preparation, there will be times when you need an emergency tool to regain control immediately. There's a tool you carry with you 24/7 that has the power to pull you out of a state of total panic and restore mental clarity in less than a minute. And most people never learn to use it consciously. I'm talking about your breath. It sounds too simple to be true, but here's what happens physiologically. When you're stressed, anxious, angry, your sympathetic nervous system is in control, your body is in fight or flight mode. Racing heart, short and rapid breathing, tense muscles, foggy thinking. But when you deliberately slow down your breathing, when you breathe deeply from your diaphragm instead of shallowly from your chest, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for calmness. It's like pressing a reset button on your emotional state. The most effective technique used by modern Stoics and mindfulness practitioners is the 4-7-8 breathing method. It works like this: inhale through your nose counting to 4. Hold your breath counting to 7. Exhale through your mouth counting to 8. Repeat this cycle 4 times. What's happening here is that you're forcing your body to slow down, and when the body slows down, the mind follows. The long exhalation is especially important because it signals to your brain that there is no imminent danger. If there were, you wouldn't be exhaling so slowly. It's a simple but devastatingly effective trick. I've used this technique minutes before important presentations, in the middle of heated discussions, during moments of acute anxiety, and it works every time. Not because it makes the problem disappear, but because it restores the mental clarity needed to deal with it. Here's the practical challenge. For the next 7 days, establish 3 breathing anchors in your day. Could be as soon as you wake up, before lunch, and before bed. At these 3 times, no matter what's happening, you stop for 2 minutes and do the conscious breathing exercise. It doesn't need to be anything elaborate. Just sit comfortably, close your eyes if possible, and breathe intentionally. The goal isn't to meditate deeply, it's to train your mind to recognize that you have an emotional control tool always available. After a week of doing this regularly, you'll notice something interesting. In moments of real pressure, your body will automatically remind you to breathe. It will be as if an inner voice says, "Hey, you know what to do here." And when you breathe consciously in the midst of chaos, you create that crucial space between stimulus and response where your freedom of choice resides. But there's another equally powerful tool that works in conjunction with breathing. We live in a culture that values immediate action, quick responses, and instant positioning. Silence is confused with weakness, lack of opinion, and passivity. But true masters of wisdom know that silence is one of the most powerful weapons you can use. It's not the absence of thought, it's total presence without the need for performance. When everyone is shouting, those who remain silent have power. When everyone is reacting emotionally, those who observe in silence see patterns that others miss. Epictetus had a poignant phrase about this. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth to listen more and speak less. But he wasn't just talking about listening to others, he was talking about listening to oneself, about creating inner space where wisdom can emerge without being suffocated by the noise of automatic reactions. Strategic silence works on multiple levels. On an interpersonal level, when someone verbally attacks you expecting an explosive reaction, silence is devastating. You don't defend yourself, you don't counterattack, you just calmly observe and wait. This silence forces the other person to continue talking, and the more they talk without response, the more they expose themselves, the more they reveal their true intentions, the more they lose control of the situation. On an intrapersonal level, silence is where you process information without the interference of your own immediate reactions. It's where you can ask better questions. Why does this situation bother me so much? What does this say about me? What would be the wisest response here? These questions don't appear amidst the mental noise of reactivity. They emerge in the silence of contemplation. Practice this actively. In the next discussion or debate you participate in, try waiting 5 seconds before responding to any point raised. Those 5 seconds will seem like an eternity, especially if you're used to responding immediately, but observe what happens. First, people will think you're actually considering what they said, which in itself is rare and powerful. Second, your response when it comes will be more calibrated, more precise, more effective. Third, you'll notice that many things you would normally respond to don't even need a response. The impulse to react will pass, and you'll realize that silence was the wisest response. With practice, you'll develop the ability to choose when to speak and when to be silent, and this conscious choice is a clear indicator that you are in control, not your emotions. But all this control requires a delicate balance that most people never manage to find. Here's where many people get lost. They think they have to choose between being calm or being decisive, between being serene or being effective. This is a false dichotomy that keeps people trapped in unproductive extremes. Either they are aggressively decisive but lose their heads in the process, or they are peacefully calm but never take a stand. True mastery lies in being both at the same time, in having the serenity that gives you clarity and the determination that makes you act. Think of a surgeon performing a complex operation. He is not anxious, sweating profusely, making impulsive decisions. But neither is he slowly contemplating each movement while the patient bleeds. He is absolutely calm and completely decisive, making precise cuts with steady hands, guided by mental clarity and years of training. Calmness gives you the ability to see the whole playing field. When you're not being dragged down by emotions, when you maintain that inner serenity we've been cultivating, you see options that a panicked person doesn't see. You see long-term consequences that the impulsive person ignores. You identify hidden opportunities that the anxious person misses. But calmness alone doesn't move mountains. Decision-making does. And the decision born from calmness is infinitely more powerful than the decision born from despair. Because when you decide calmly, you decide once and move on. When you decide in despair, you keep revisiting the decision 1,000 times, questioning yourself, regretting, wavering. The combination of calmness and decision-making gives you something rare: quiet conviction. You act without hesitation, but also without agitation. You move with purpose, but without unnecessary urgency. Developing this duality requires practice in real-life situations. The next time you need to make an important decision, establish a process. First, take 5 minutes to calm your mind using breathing and silence. Then, list your options clearly. Evaluate each one with the clarity that calmness provides. Then, and here's the crucial part, make your choice and fully commit to it without dwelling on it. Discipline lies in respecting both phases: the contemplative phase of calm and the executive phase of decision-making. Many people jump straight to the decision without calmness, resulting in impulsivity. Others get stuck eternally in contemplation, resulting in paralysis. You need both, and you need to know when to alternate between them. Calmness to analyze, decision to act, and then calmness again to execute without anxiety. When you master this rhythm, you become an unstoppable force because you combine the wisdom of patience with the power of action. You've just gone through 9 lessons that have the power to completely transform your relationship with pressure, anxiety, and control over your own life. But here's the most important truth of all. Knowledge without application is just intellectual entertainment. You can know everything about Stoic mind control, you can have all the theory memorized, and still live as a slave to your emotions if you don't put it into practice. So now I need you to be honest with yourself. Are you going to close this video, feel a fleeting motivation, and in 2 days be back in the same old pattern? Or are you going to make the most important choice any human being can make? The choice to become master of yourself? Think about the last few times you lost control. That argument that escalated unnecessarily. That impulsive decision that cost you dearly. That moment of anxiety that paralyzed you when you most needed to act. Now imagine having the tools to navigate these situations calmly, clearly, and decisively. Imagine no longer being a prisoner of your automatic reactions. Imagine looking back 6 months from now and recognizing that you are a fundamentally different person. Stronger, wiser, more in control. This is not fantasy. It is entirely possible. But it requires you to start now, not tomorrow. That you choose one of these practices, just one, and commit to applying it consistently for the next 30 days. It could be mindful breathing, it could be pausing before reacting, it could be negative visualization. Choose one and go for it. And when you feel it's working, when you realize you're responding differently to life's pressures, go back and implement another practice. Build your Stoic arsenal one tool at a time. Because the goal isn't immediate perfection, it's consistent progress. It's about being a little more in control of yourself each day. The Stoics didn't become masters overnight. They trained daily, failed repeatedly, and constantly recalibrated. And yet, they shaped philosophies that have endured for millennia because they work. Now those same tools are in your hands. What will you do with them? If this content resonated with you, if you truly want to be part of a community that takes this work seriously, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Because every week I bring practical content on how to apply Stoic wisdom to real life, not abstract theory, but techniques you can use today. And leave a comment saying which of these 9 lessons you will implement first. I want to know you are committed to your own transformation. The mind you control is the life you conquer. Start now.